What's up YouTube, New Scroll here. By the end of this video, this motor is going to be off the jack stand with the transmission bolted up and ready to drop into the engine bay. So, without further ado, let's get started and cue the intro. So from the last video, I had quite a bit of work to do. I had to weld on the baffle for the oil pan. I had to do all the AN lines, get those all bolted up, cleaned, ready to go. And I also had to grind down the bolts for the motor mount. That's all pretty much done. So I have the motor flipped upside down so I can have better access to the intake side of the motor. I'm going to be deleting most of the factory CCV or crankcase ventilation so that I can put in my own oil catch can setup. And then I'm pretty much going to drop the motor, put the clutch and flywheel on. I'll show you guys what clutch and flywheel I'm going to be using, bolt the transmission up, and we're ready to rock and roll. So let's get started. So to start things off, I already capped off the dipstick return tube with 3/8 inch ID vacuum plug. The factory air oil separator for the E46 returns all the oil back to the oil pan, but I want to see how much oil is actually getting to the catch can, so I'm not going to be returning the oil back like the OEM setup. That's why that plug is there. For the record, I have no idea what I'm doing. So I ended up taking the motor mount off to get easier access to the oil separator right there. I already took out the return hose and the hose that goes from the oil separator to the valve cover. They're held on with these clips that you pretty much just squeeze together and they should slide right off. But now I gotta get that oil separator out of there. I think there's just one more hose to get rid of. Also, with that hose out of the way, I think I would have been able to get away with the TRM oil distribution block with the washer that I came with, because now I would have had room to clock it whichever way I wanted. For those of you that are wondering, for the TRM oil distribution block, I was able to clock it the right way by getting an assortment of copper wash from AutoZone. All I did was pick the right one that made it go the way that I wanted. So apparently, in order to get to the air oil separator, I gotta remove the diesel valve, throttle body, and then we can finally get to it. I'm gonna see if I could get away with just getting the throttle body out of the way, so let's do it. Well, it's a good thing I decided to take off the DISA because the bolts were loose, and yeah, that valve is busted. Oh, I'm finding all sorts of bad stuff with this motor. So looking inside where the diesel goes and the throttle body, it's a little bit hard to tell on camera, but it looks pretty wet. It's not crazy, but it's enough for me to say that maybe oil's getting in there. After a lot of cursing and breaking the hose that goes to that port, it's finally off. Piece of shit. For those of you that didn't know, these are a common failure point for E46s. Usually the drain gets clogged up with oil, usually in colder climates. It doesn't allow oil to drain to the oil pan and cause a lot of blow by. So if you're an E46 owner, definitely get this checked out, because if it's bad, well, you should replace it, because you're gonna be burning a lot of oil, usually around like a quart every 500 to 1,000 miles. So with the factory air oil separator off, I put the throttle body back on. I didn't put the diesel valve back on because, well, it's broken, so I need to figure out what I'm gonna do with that. So let's get this motor flipped around. I got this secondary air pump delete that I'm gonna put on, and then we're gonna try to get the trans on. I'm running out of time. I don't want to piss off the neighbors. guys see that? Another wine voucher. So for my clutch and flywheel setup, I'm going to be running the Clutch Masters FX350. I already had their flywheel out of the box because I did the compression test on the motor from a couple videos back. This is the medium weight flywheel. It should be around 15 to 16 pounds. I didn't want to go lightweight because M54 B30s are notorious for harmonic issues, so I'd rather keep some weight on there to help mitigate those. So here's a clutch disc, FX350. I believe it has what they call their Fiber Tough compound. I've heard some pretty good stuff about this. Let me know what you guys are running for your clutch. I know this is a lot of mixed reviews for a lot of clutches, so very curious to see what you guys are running. Comes with an alignment tool, unlike ACT when I was putting my 2J together, and it also comes with the throttle bearing. Oh, Haribo. So while the clutch is off the car, I'm going to be changing the pilot bearing, and I'm going to be replacing the rear main seal. So without further ado, let's get this motor off of the engine stand, put the trans on. I don't know what I'm going to do from there. I don't know if I want to drop in the motor tonight. We'll see. Out with the old, in with the new. Rear main seal is on. So now I need to take out the pilot bearing, and I'm going to use a trick that I saw on YouTube using bread. I'm using pandesal because I'm Filipino, but if you don't know this trick, you're basically just going to stuff the hole with some bread. Get something like a bolt that just fits in there, and theoretically if you build enough pressure, the pilot bearing should pop right out. And there you have it. Added a little bit of tape on this bolt just to seal it a little bit better, but it's out. Moment of truth. Let's try to get the transmission on. Alright, so the trans is on, the motor's pretty much ready to rock and roll, ready to go into the engine bay. So stay tuned because in the next episode, this motor is going to be in the engine bay.